but I'm sure I can give you a very good rendition of what's been occurring over in Chile. It was a year ago that I stood at this conference, and we were able to announce a very pivotal transaction on a private copper-gold porphyry discovery on the coastline of Chile that happened to sit next to a major investment by Hot Chili over 10 years now in our Productora coastal range copper development. Look, I guess since the deal was announced in February, we were able to announce world-class drilling intercepts out of this private discovery, which had been left open and sat just 14 kilometres away from Productora. It was at that point that I think that the company realised what we were actually dealing with. So over the space of 6 or 7 months, the company has now recorded 5 of the top 25 global copper-gold intercepts recorded in the past 2 years. And that's quite an achievement. To put that into context, there's only one other Australian on that list, and probably you could call it international, with Rio Tinto having recorded 2 of those intercepts. So we finished the year very strongly. In December, we recorded a near 1,000 metre intercept from surface, running 0.5% copper and 0.2 gold. And we've now got a presentation in the background so we can catch everyone up. And that was really, I suppose, a very strong way to finish the year. As you can see from here, the Coastal Copper Hub strategy that we've adopted to bring all of these assets into line was really about adding something that we thought was the size of Productora, about 250 million tonnes, together, and putting one central processing facility in place, and developing probably the largest copper-gold play that the ASX has seen since Equinox departed our boards with the takeover from Barrick. You can see that over 10 years, we've been very busy putting together a mine gate to port solution. We're on the coastline at around 1,000 metres, 800 metres altitude, and we have the Pan American Highway running right through the middle of us. In fact, our cluster of assets, including high-grade assets to the east in El Fuego, 4 kilometres from Cortadera, and now having the realisation that Productora and 10 years of our team's dedicated work has been about developing a 2.5 kilometre satellite pit to the elephant that was always sitting next to us. So we thank very much the previous explorer for the discovery, the 23,000 metres put in, but since taking that over the course of the year, we've absolutely transformed this into potentially the world's next tier 1 asset in the making, and it's growing very rapidly. And I guess a point that I make is it's very, very rare to find a junior, particularly sub $500 million market cap, which is holding one of these assets in a tier 1 jurisdiction next to a port. So that is the list of intercepts that I was talking about previously. And I think that's a very good poll on what's going on in global copper, gold, porphyry discoveries. We have a few of those going around in Australia, but Hot Chili is luckily the only one in that top 25 list that enjoys 5 spots out of the last 2 years. And we really share that limelight with SolGold and Regulus Resources if you discount 2 majors on that list in Rio Tinto and Zijin Mining. Look, I guess what the next 6 to 8 months is all about is putting the first meat on the bone with Cortadera. What is it? And certainly at the moment, the modelling that's just been completed, and we'll go through some geology, because what better a conference to present the true story behind the growth of this asset than RIU Explorers. So I guess what this is all about is culminating towards a very large resource that will very much put Hot Chili's entire inventory on a global map. This has been the performance of the stock over 2019. I think we finished 4th best return on the market last year out of the junior space, about 223 companies, and certainly a bit of a transformation in the liquidity of the stock. What you're looking at here is just an overview of Cortadera, a similar picture that I showed 12 months ago when we knew very little about this deposit and had very little information outside of assays and drill holes, diamond put in from surface. But look, this is what gave us an absolute boost up. This discovery had been made it was just walked away from when copper price was $2 a pound. And importantly, this is a lesson for anyone looking at projects anywhere in the world. You see 800-metre intercepts from near surface that aren't closed out with wide high-grade zones, and it's very hard to be able to say what the thing is. And that's the leap of faith we took, that this thing was a lot bigger, and that certainly has more than exceeded expectations since that point. We signed a $30 million deal to acquire this over 30 months, and I think when I said that in February, I heard a large gasp from the audience. And how is a $10 million company going to be able to do that? We have found no shortage of interested investors, both here in the Australian market and the institutional space, and both internationally. We've been able to make our first payment, and we've been able to put another close to 15,000 metres into the ground since that point. That started in April. July, we hit the high-grade zone on the largest porphyry of the 4 porphyries discovered, and that added a completely different dimension. We weren't just dealing with a 20 to 30-year large-scale open pit operation on the coastline of Chile. We now had a large high-grade zone that was matching it with the best underground copper grades globally in the large underground space. It was about whether that thing could grow. And so we fast forward to February, we model it up, and we're sitting with something about twice the size of what we thought this could be, and well on the way towards a Tier 1 asset, and most importantly, still almost completely open. These are the 4 porphyries that have been modelled up over the 2.3 kilometre discovery zone, and we're just going to focus in on where all of those pink intercepts, which are the world-class intercepts, and yes, there's a lot of intercepts. The white ones are the historical ones. Red ones are the ones that aren't catching the limelight as much, but still, 300-400 metre intercepts. But those purple ones obviously sit up with the best in the world. This is what Cuerpo 3 has grown into, and some people thought this might have been a little pencil porphyry from surface. Well, as it's got deeper, it's expanded laterally, both north-south and northwest-southeast with those dominant controls. A lot of the work that you're about to see has been led by Steve Garwin, who, as most people know, has been driving the Cascabel team on that discovery for SolGold and has quite a number of these large porphyry discoveries under his belt. Hopefully we're about to put another one on his CV. So the modelling that's being done is incorporating the same techniques, Anaconda methodology for how these things are going to grow, and the key data sets we're about to see are probably going to give you a very good idea about what kind of a monster this is about to become. These are the dimensions currently, the yellow envelopes, the plus 0.2% bulk envelope, and the plus 0.4% envelopes, obviously the high-grade core. Importantly, at Cuerpo 3, that entire part of that model did not exist 12 months ago, and it was part of the major discovery that unfolded. We've now eclipsed all of the best original discovery intercepts on this deposit, and it's growing. Here's just another view of that, turning 90 degrees. You can see the drill holes in Cuerpo 3. I mean, this thing's 750 metres long by 500 metres wide at depth now, and we have hardly any closeout holes across all of the key flanks that are extending. This is what the high-grade zone looks like. Look, it's about a 1 to 1.3% copper equivalent bulk tonnage zone, and as I said, this is matching it with some of the best underground reserve grades in the world, and for the Australians, obviously, you can match it up against Cadia and realise the kind of quality that we're talking about here, or in fact in Candelaria and Chile with a sub-level cave, certainly matching it very well with that. So this is the kind of smart geology that's being done in hot Chile. This is 40,000 metres of diamond drilling, all put together into a 4-dimensional time sequence or paragenesis. We're able to model that in 3D iteratively using rapid modelling technology and obviously controlling how that interpretation is building. As we go forward, this thing will, over time, probably over the next 12 months, will start to mimic the geologists' interpretations themselves. But what we see here are some of the controls that are starting to be highlighted. The pink and red are the actual host porphyry phases. That's the early and intramineral. And the yellow dikes that are going north-south through these balloon points are the late mineralised dike sequences. And we can see that the Cuerpo 3 North target, which we're about to talk about, and the extension of the skarn alteration, all of these things are pointing towards these porphyry centres starting to grow, not just in that northwest trend, but in the north-south corridors. And we can see a cross-section, and that displays well what I'm talking about with the proximal skarn starting to extend to the north on the largest porphyry. So if we look at some of the other key vectoring data sets that have been modelled in probably 5 or 6 key things that we spend a lot of time on in the core. The molybdenum is one of the key vectoring halo elements that you like to see around these big porphyry systems. This is on the left, the molybdenum concentration around the deposit window, clearly outlining a very robust system, and again outlining those north-south controls on balloon points. And when you actually go to the vein intensity and this stuff, look, it's got a very high correlation with our grade distribution. When we model that up, again, we see these ballooning situations starting to occur, and they're ballooning into areas that don't have any closeout drilling on. So Cuerpo 3 North, that big circle, obviously looks like a good place to go. Underneath the vein intensity, you can see the IP chargeability at 200 metres depth slice, also giving a nice strong pyrite halo to this. So when we tip this up and look in long section, what are we actually looking at here? And it's very much starting to look like the top of a much larger system, probably not dissimilar to what the guys at SolGold were looking at in the early world-class holes they were starting to put out when they hit their high-grade zone at 700 metres depth. We're obviously getting into high grade a lot higher here, but it makes you wonder about what's going to happen when we start moving our drilling from 1,000 metre holes to 1,500 metre holes, particularly on Cuerpo 2 and Cuerpo 3, where we start to look at the vein intensity really ratcheting up at the bottom of the system with the high grade core. So I guess Steve Gowan asked me a question. He said, do you think that we've actually found the high grade core yet? And that was quite a eye-widening moment for all of us in the team. This is what the copper grade distribution looks like. You can see actually the hole we just updated the market on this morning, 40D. We're about 930 metres down hole and have probably gone through about 600 metres of mineralised and well-mineralised porphyry. We're starting to see that high grade starting to extend to the southeast. So certainly the high grade core that we're building, it's extending, so is the bulk envelope. But you look at this in long section and you just wonder whether we are looking at a very, very similar situation to actually, in fact, most of the world-class porphyries that we see joining at depth and coalescing into larger systems. What's impressive about this is 1 year. We've developed a 1.2 kilometre vertical ore column, and some of the best porphyries in the world exhibit those features. Cuerpo 3 North, we've just started on this. This is about our chance to step out of that discovery window. Yes, the discovery window is growing. It's growing rapidly. We have a dedicated diamond drill rig on double shift, pushing forward on that towards our resource target. But we're also looking to assess 2 very large growth targets that will really send this thing to the stratosphere if we start to get success. 500 metres north of the main porphyry there, you can see a coincident chargeability and conductivity anomaly sitting along those north-south dike corridors. That stuff's bleeding copper from surface, and the first hole that we've got down at about 312 metres, an RC hole, precursor to diamond tails, has seen proximal skarn from surface with up to 5% pyrite for the last 120 metres. So we're certainly in the game, and no doubt the next 6 holes are going to have a fair bit of attention on them. But then when we look further afield, and we're still really only looking at a 4K by 4K box, not a typical 10K by 10K large system box that you would look at for something this big. And we see a lookalike target to the north, Cortadera North. In 2 weeks we'll be getting access into there, and we'll be putting scout drilling across that 1.5 to 2 kilometre long zone that's exhibiting a stronger molybdenum surface signature than Cortadera does, and obviously as large a chargeability halo. This is the work that we did to confirm it, and we're looking forward to getting there soon. So Hot Chili is certainly in good company on the ASX, and it's great to see the Staveleys of the world and the Alkanes of the world putting out their discovery results last year, and then following it up with some very good results, like Hot Chili has done. So the next results to watch out for, obviously, one diamond hole at a time. We're not looking to rush forward and start being the Hot Chili of 2012, spending $4 or $5 million a month and bringing 4 rigs in. We do have 2 rigs on the ground, and we're looking to parallel both the push towards the first resource as well as starting to assess these step change growth opportunities. So yes, we're not afraid to demonstrate the type of ore body that is coming together here. Very interestingly, when you combine this with 250 million tonnes at 0.5%, 14 kilometres away, that's probably going to be conveyor belted into this project now as a satellite with Productora. And you add it to the project that iteratively right now is obviously probably around twice the size of Productora. I think you know where we are. We're about to have the largest inventory of copper gold in the ASX for a sub $500 million company in the next 6 to 8 months. And most importantly, I think we'll share probably the second largest inventory of copper gold globally in the hands of a junior. So we're very much looking forward to 2020. Thank you very much.